Welcome to ANM News and welcome to yet another edition of ANM Adda. Guess who is there with me? No prizes for guessing. We have the most dynamic chief managing member of one of Asia's top club. Yes, you're right. Mr. Anil Mukherjee, the chief managing member of Tollygunge Club. Welcome to ANM News and welcome to ANM Adda, Mr. Mukherjee.
Thank you, Arjit. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know you for a very long time to just thank me for it. But tell me one thing. You've been managing Tollygunge Club. Tollygunge Club has, up over the years, is to become one of the leading clubs in Asia. Before we come to the management of Tollygunge Club and how you made it happen, I want to go back to your younger days. And I want you to go down the memory lane. Tell our viewers about your early life. Did you ever thought that one day you are going to become the chief managing member of Tollygunge Club? I mean, you thought of coming out or taking this kind of thing up as a profession in your younger life?
No, I didn't actually. My father was in the Air Force and he was a pilot. So in the early stages of my life, we, like all military kids, moved from station to station. And that was a great education and exposure because you met people from all parts of the country, all castes, creeds and religions. You grew up together. So you learn to mix with people. You learn to, play with different kinds of people, and you learn to operate as a team because you played football, you played hockey, you played gulli danda, and Air Force kids versus Army kids and all that kind of thing. So teamwork, getting on with people, understanding where they came from, having a wider exposure to various communities and classes and cultures helps in giving you a wider vision, and therefore my childhood helped. I had my last few years of schooling was in La Martiniere, Calcutta, and it was immensely valuable education.
But then where did you grow up?
I grew up at various Air Force stations of India, from Ambala and Delhi, of course, when my father was in Air Headquarters, so we were eventually in New Delhi. He was also based at Barrackpore.
So you've seen the entire country.
I've seen Bangalore, Pune, so in the armed forces, our military officers get transferred frequently. So as a result, you also travel across the country, and therefore you learn a bit about different parts of the country. You go to different schools, you have people from different backgrounds. So mixing and meeting and adjusting to people comes to you naturally. And also what happens in the military is that sometimes you're living in a two-room little house with no electricity. Then you go to an old cantonment, and there you find that because of the old days, it's an old cantonment. So you live in a palatial house. You again adjust to everything. You learn very easily to adjust to circumstances, and I think that's a very important lesson we learned in life.
And you saw different cultures,
different people, different communities, different parts of the country. So that kind of exposure was better than any formal schooling I ever got.
Absolutely.
And then, my father was from Allahabad, though he's a Bengali. My mother was from what is now Pakistan, Lahore. So again, we had a very, diverse background. And the La Martiniere education was definitely outstanding. We had Colonel Simeon as our principal. We had outstanding teachers like John Mason, who were great mentors, and they allowed us to think, they allowed us to challenge, they allowed us to question. And the kind of education we got then, the result was you were taking part in sports, you were taking part in debating, and you were constantly being pushed to improve yourself and raise the bar higher.
It was very wholesome.
Very wholesome, very complete kind of
education.
Yeah.
So then once you finished school, what was your next?
Well, actually, I had no intention of joining the private sector, but certain family circumstances came in the way, and I found myself by happenstance to join a very fine tea company and that was J. Thomas and Company. And I then spent about 30 years in the tea industry in various organizations. But the start was J. Thomas, and I was also with George Williamson, Carrot Moran, very well-known institutions. And again, the tea industry,
What exactly were you doing in the tea industry?
Well, I was involved in when I was in J. Thomas, of course, is the largest tea auctioneer in the world. So you actually auction tea. So you start by tasting tea, and then you start to learn how to sell it, and you have clients who you represent, and you're supposed to look after their interests. It's very similar in a fashion to being in an advertising agency or any service industry. You have clients and you're supposed to further their interests. And
so did you go to tea gardens and all?
Yes, we used to visit tea gardens, but I never worked in a tea garden. We used to visit tea gardens very frequently because we were to advise them on the markets and the quality of their tea. We were known as tea tasters, and that's what you originally started off as. You learn, because if you didn't know, you have to learn how to value a tea. What is the tea worth in the existing market? So you started off as trainee tea tasters, and then you moved up
as a tea taster.
As you went along the line to handling clients. And first, when you were young, you handled small clients, and then as you got more experience, you handled larger clients. So you were a people's person because you had to be. You were dealing with, especially in the 70s and 80s, you were dealing with somebody who belonged from diverse backgrounds because the ownership of tea had started to change. So you had some of those typical old world British companies. At the same time, you had new Indian entrepreneurs from Rajasthan who had bought tea groups and tea gardens, and they were your clients, and you couldn't handle them the both same way. So you learned to adjust, you learned to be flexible, you learned to try and understand where they were coming from, and all that helps you in a world that's so dynamic as ours and so fluid as ours.
So once you tell us a small anecdote in your life, one funny incident that you as you moved along as a tea taster.
Well, I personally always felt that the tea industry was very, very conventional and conservative, but very solid. So in those days, in the late 70s, as a tea broker, which is what tea broking was, you had to go out even in the middle of Calcutta summer. When you went calling on your clients, you were supposed to wear a jacket and tie. And I've always been a bit of a rebel, so I used to find that absolutely odd. And I was one day going off to see my clients, and I had my no tie on, and I had just walking out in my shirt sleeves. And the managing director of the company happened to be there, and he said, I wished him, of course, and he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going calling. And he said, you are undressed. I said, I beg your pardon? I'm not undressed at all. He said, yes, you are. Where's your jacket and tie? So, that was the kind of stuff you had to do. You had to go back in the middle of summer and wear a jacket and tie. It was great fun. I mean, you worked hard, but they also encouraged you to play a lot of sport.
Okay.
And, merchant cups and, company sports. So it was like being in a very large school in many ways.
Absolutely. Being a tea taster, tell me one thing, we all love tea. We all love to drink tea in this part of the world. And of course, tea is a huge market all world over. What's the most expensive tea will cost? Just the price of the tea.
Well, I've been out of tea so long that I don't know. I mean,
during your time?
In my time, when I was, if you sold a tea at 100 rupees, it was a big thing. Today, in fact, the first tea that sold at 100 rupees in the non-Darjeeling section was an orthodox tea, and it was bought by a buyer from Iran, and it was bought from J. Thomas, and it was on what is called out lists, and I happened to be the guy who just happened to be handling the phone. So I remember that was the first Assam orthodox tea that sold at 100 rupees. Otherwise, the prices were 20, 25, 30, and it fluctuated with the markets. But now I understand, the average level is 200 rupees or something like that. Darjeelings, of course, and the exotic teas were always far more expensive. I think teas are sold at 10,000, 15,000 per kilo. It's all per kilo. And, the niche markets of tea are growing, as far as I know. As I said, I have a lot of friends in tea, but I haven't really kept in touch with the pace of what's happening
there. During your time, which was better, Assam tea or Darjeeling tea?
No, they're two different. You're comparing apples with oranges. I mean, both are great. Assam is very different, and Assam is strong and gutty, and Darjeeling is light with a bouquet and with wine. Just like you can't compare a white wine and a red wine. Right? Two different kinds. They're both wines, but they're two different kinds of wine. So it depends on your personal preference.
Absolutely. So from tea industry to Tollygunge Club, how has been your journey?
Oh, I've been a member here since the late 70s, and I've always been a very enthusiastic sportsman, not necessarily very good, but enthusiastic. And you know, I was in the tea industry. I was very happy where I was with the company. Unfortunately, my company, the owners decided to disinvest, and when that happened, I was, wondering what to do with myself. And Tolly has always been very close to me, to my family. My children have grown up in this club, like many of us. Tolly was where they wanted to come. So at that time, my predecessor was retiring, and the club was looking for what actually is called chief executive and managing member, because normally what this club has been doing for the last, since they actually had a managing member, was the first legendary managing member was Mr. Bob Wright. That they've always taken on a member to run the operation. There is a general committee that obviously is the board and decides the policies and all that, but to run the club, because, and I think that's correct, because a member who has been an active member understands the club much better. He or she understands the ethos, the customs, the culture. The staff are more comfortable with them. The other members are more comfortable with them. You can talk to them on a one-to-one level. So, it was a fairly, I didn't think at that stage of my life that it would be an intensive interview, but apparently there were applications from all over, and I had to go through 3 interviews, being interviewed by people whom I knew well, some of them, but I wasn't the only guy who they knew others as well. And there was actually a psychological test, which I found a little amusing, because I remember one of the questions, do you like to party? And I was trying to figure out, who doesn't like to party? But yeah, that's how I came in, and it's been my home for the last 10, 12 years, and I'm very, very, I think, privileged and fortunate to have been identified and selected for Tolly. It's given a lot to me, and to me, Tolly is home, and will always be, even when I move on. I will always, Tolly is where my children have grown up here. It's a very special place in my heart and my family's heart.
Absolutely. Now, Tolly, there's a lot of history behind Tolly. And there are a lot of these buildings which are very historical from the British era. So can you run us through, for our viewers, about some of these buildings and some of the history behind them?
Well, actually, this building, the clubhouse, that is over 240 years old. And it was owned by a person from the East India Company, and it was not Thompson, I think it was, and Johnson, sorry. And he worked with the East India Company, like most of those guys at that time. He was quite an adventurer, and he bought and sold this property, I think, twice or thrice. It was never an indigo plantation, as some people believe. Mr. Johnson dealt in indigo, traded in indigo, but it wasn't an indigo plantation. And it passed on, and then, to cut a long story short, more interesting for your viewers, after the Battle of Sringapattam in 1799, as the British normally did, after Tipu Sultan was martyred, they wanted to separate the families, because otherwise it could become a rallying point for. Because as you know, Hyder Ali, his father, and Tipu Sultan gave the British a very difficult time. So they brought them here. And this property actually is on the Prince Mohammed Ghulam Trust, who was the grandson of Tipu Sultan. And it's still, legally their property. Yes, we have a lifetime and agreement and tenure with them. And perpetual lease, it's referred to, and that is there. It was signed many years ago, and it continues. So you have Tipu Sultan from one side, and Tipu Sultan's family.
Did they stay here ever?
Well, we don't know. There is some. We're not very clear. There are stories that Prince Mohammed Ghulam actually did come here, but this certainly was their property, and he married into the Wajid Ali Shah family, who were staying in Kidapur. Okay. So you have two great, families of India, old India, who were part of this. And then Tolly, it's moved. It's a very dynamic institution. Its avatars have changed with the times. Obviously, in the time of the British, it was a citadel of the British lifestyle, and Indians were not allowed, and all that kind of stuff. It changed. With the coming of independence and the coming of Indians coming into prominence, it developed a different kind of culture, and I've seen it change. I've been a member since the late 70s. I've seen it change in terms of its membership and its activities. Fundamentally, it's a sporting club, and I hope it always remains like that. It's not. You don't have to be sporting excellent, but we hope that people will be sporting enthusiastic. I remember when I was a youngster and I joined the club, there used to be a portrait of Queen Elizabeth in the lounge. Just to give you an example, it was still like that. And then it changed over the years. And now you're a member. It's a very dynamic, vibrant place with diverse people, very cosmopolitan, and activities from music and art and culture to sport. So it's actually a microcosm of India. That's
You've got amalgamated everything.
And it's perhaps the only, arguably the only club in India that has everything. I mean, and all the sporting activities apart from badminton. You've got tennis, squash, swimming, golf, riding. Riding was our original sport. This was actually a race course.
Okay.
And they used to have races till the 90s.
You had equestrian events also.
Yeah, of course, we still have. We have 40 horses. We held several junior and national equestrian championships over the years, over the decades. In the last 10 years, we've held them about 4 times. We are one of the founding members, or the Tolly is one of the founding members of the Indian Golf Union. So in riding and golf, Tolly has played a historical role right from the last 125 years.
But you have been very friendly to pets, you have been very friendly to environment.
Well, that's Tolly's culture. Tolly's culture is that it's been, and I'm not saying that everybody enjoys that, but you'll find, especially amongst the older members, it's always been a very animal-friendly place. I think perhaps because of the fact that we had horses. You have dogs.
You have foxes also.
We have jackals.
Jackals, yeah.
And these are endangered species.
Yeah.
We also.
How many jackals you have?
Well, we're not sure, but in the region of about 40, 45. The last census that the Forest Department did. But we also.
And they coexist with.
Yeah, they coexist. They've never harmed anybody. We feed them. We look after them. We look after the dogs. Unfortunately, what's happening is that people from in around with the Tolly and some outsiders slip in dogs, and that's not fair because. A lot of members don't like them, and there's a large section who do, but there's some section who are, and you have to also cater to their sentiments. We do that, but it's an animal-friendly place. It's very ecologically friendly. You're very environmentally conscious, and
some of the oldest trees.
Some of the oldest trees. We are a reservoir, a sanctuary for butterflies. We have migratory birds that come in winter. They're very particular of, we try and use only organic stuff, so that the groundwater doesn't get affected. We're very conscious of our ecological responsibility. So we're environment friendly, we're family friendly, we're animal friendly, and we are a friendly place.
On a serious note, I mean, if you remember, a few years down the line, once you had this controversy in one particular club where a very senior people walked in barefoot and he was shown the door. Then somebody walked in with Indian dress, dhoti and this thing, and he was not allowed to get into that club. So, does Tolly, what is Tolly's belief?
No, we don't have that. We believe that we have a dress code, but ours being a sports club, we have a very relaxed dress code. Obviously, dhoti Punjabi is absolutely permitted. So is chudidar kurta. You can be in a chudidar kurta and you're welcome to come to the club. We say strapped sandals or shoes, but that's the only criteria. And if you're coming from different parts of India, whatever your regional dress is, that's the most welcome. In the Northeast, some people have different dresses. They are most welcome to wear it here. We will not stop them. We have when you have foreign visitors, say from Africa, again, there are many who have different kind of dresses. They're welcome. We don't have anything like that you have to Indian. I mean, we are Indian. We are India. And I think really what is important about dressing is that you shouldn't be offensive to anybody else. As long as you're a sports club, then you dress according to the occasion, according to the event, or according to where you are. Obviously, I wouldn't want to walk into a formal occasion wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I will wear, what appropriate clothes. But Indian dress is absolutely welcome here. churidar kurtas and dhoti Punjabi.
More importantly, the appropriate clothing is the order of the day.
The order of the day. We do have we are very relaxed. We have a clothes, a clothes wear what you can wear and what you can't wear kind of stuff. But if you read it, which you probably got since you're a member, you'll find it's very relaxed, and you can wear pretty much anything you want. And over the years, we've relaxed a bit. Earlier, round neck T-shirts were not allowed, but that's a bit anachronistic not to allow them today. It's a part of fashion. The world's best dressed people today wear round neck T-shirts. So a lot of it, we believe our members have a sense of responsibility. They love this club. It's their club. We don't expect them to do anything that would in any way embarrass the institution.
So you've been here over the years, you have steered this club to greater heights. So now, what has been, if I ask you for two something which you remember for the rest of your life, two incidents which you remember for the rest of your life, two very, very important incidents, what will those be?
Well, I think one, of course, I must, since you though I was reluctant, you got me onto this thing. As you know, I suffered from cancer, and so far I've survived, and hopefully I'll continue to survive. But I can tell you one thing.
But I can more say you're a cancer survivor.
Well, I don't know if I'm a survivor or not, but certainly I've survived so long. And one of the reasons I survived was the huge and humongous support that I got from the Tollygunge Club. I'm not talking just about the financial support, because that would come from any company, any worthwhile company. But it was the way the staff rallied around, the way the members, my friends rallied around to support my wife, the way the president at that time, the late Mr. Karol Datta, stood by me. The other incident I'll always remember is when Umpan hit us. And we were in the midst of a lockdown, as you know. The club, we were devastated. We lost 73 trees, which broke our hearts, because, as I said, we are a very ecologically friendly club.
73, how many trees are there roughly?
Oh, I don't know, over 140 varieties of trees, but I don't know the exact number. Though there is a book. And we
73 trees fell.
Were knocked down. We were able to restore, thanks to our environment committee and our staff. But Abhijit, the way our staff came out, the way they came out, they worked through the night, through the day, and they're not all of them. They were the cooks, the bearers, the carpenters were coming out. They came to a man, they slogged and cleaned the place out. You could see that commitment to this institution, even to the extent there was a snake that got caught in nets in the water in that big tank, the pond that we have. And I just happened to be standing there walking around, and the effort they went to save that creature. So the commitment of our staff and the way they cleared and the way they stood by this institution during that devastating time is something that will be always etched in my memory.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I mean, those are
they were incredible
memories.
Incredible.
But tell us, during Amphan, because you're surrounded by trees, absolutely, in a very natural atmosphere. I mean, you can't imagine such kind of a place in the middle of Kolkata. So, what was your experience?
Well, it was you saw nature at its most powerful omnipotence, because obviously with the trees and the wind, you suddenly realize how puny the human being is when nature actually unleashes itself. So it was overwhelming. It was. I wasn't frightened as much as I was overawed, as if you had seen God, Because in a fashion you had seen God, and you saw the might of the universe. So that is what's etched in my memory, the sheer power and ferocity of nature. That when it unleashes itself, and yet it's the same nature that nurtures us and builds us and keeps us alive and everything else. So the two sides of nature, its gentleness and its ferocity, will always be again something that I will remember.
And as you stepped out of your house, you must be seeing trees.
It was littered with trees. It was broken down. You were obviously completely shattered when you saw 73 of our beautiful, when we counted them, and our wall had collapsed. So the first thing is, we were sort of in hell, and I remember, walking down one of the pathways, and suddenly the whole thing was barren. The trees had gone, and you were staring at a barren area, which had for maybe 100 years, certainly for the last 40, 50 years, those trees were there. and it reminded me of, I saw it and it reminded me of T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. You know, when you saw that, that's the first thing that came into my mind, Wasteland. It was depressing, but there nature has rejuvenated itself, it's back again, it's all looking beautiful.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the hope is always
Hope
there.
is all there. What's been your biggest achievement in Tolly?
I really don't think I have any, I can clearly claim that I am singularly responsible for anything. What Tolly has a great culture of collective effort and action. And, you know, it's whether the staff, the committee, the general committee, the subcommittees. I think the greatest thing about Tolly is that we work together. And I certainly would not take credit that anything that has happened solely because of me. That would be completely incorrect. It's been a huge, you know, cooperation and teamwork. And I think that's, I think where if I have contributed anything, it is the confidence that our staff and most of our members
Instill
have
that confidence
in
amongst
them,
them.
to carry on doing their work, and, you know, to unleash their own talents and to allow them to do things on their own. We all make mistakes, so it doesn't matter. And as long as there was, I've always told them, as long as there's sincerity of effort, if you earn, it's all right, you know. And I think that's what's happened. We've been able to unleash the talent that we have within the club, which perhaps was not as recognized as it is today.
You've been able to carry them along.
Yeah, I think that's what we've been able to do.
Now, getting membership of the Tollygunge Club is something like everybody dreams for, and it's a huge waiting list and things like that. Have you ever any brush with the political leadership or the administration or something?
In all fairness to the and not because we are on TV, in all fairness to the political system and the bureaucracy, we've never had any serious brushes or any pressure or any compulsion. I would be completely dishonest if I said we didn't get a request. But we've not been put under any pressure in that sense. No.
So that way you've been, and
I think, you know, maybe the people concerned have felt that, you know, Tolly is not the place to do that kind of stuff. So they've been pretty good with us.
And over the years, your relationship with the presidents, and you have had a full cooperation with the presidents?
I've you know, of course, many of them have been friends of mine. After all, I've been a member so long, and I've served on various committees of this club before I joined it. So it's a friendly club, and, you know, it's a very egalitarian club. It's a level playing field. And what is great about Tolly, I think I would arguably be the only place where the operations are entirely handled by the professional management. The policies, of course, are made by the board, like it should be. But by and large, the board stays at arm's length when it comes to operations. So it's unique to I think, Tolly. It works very much like a company, where the CEO is actually the CEO to a large extent, which other clubs, I think, may or may not have. I really can't speak for them. So that's unique about this place.
Any regrets?
Who doesn't have regrets? But I don't have, you know, I'm very happy to have been here. But no real serious regrets. It's been, I think there's many things I could have done better. But, you know, having grown up in a military family, it was, you know, you tried your best and you didn't do well. So, you know, stick your chin out, take it on the jaw and move on and do better next time. So yes, there are some regrets. I could have done some things better. But isn't that, we wouldn't be human if we didn't do that.
Absolutely. And what's the message for the people?
Who, the members?
Members, people at large?
Well, I just hope that the members, you know, this is an iconic institution, the Tolly. It represents India through the centuries, last 125 years. I hope that the present members and the future generation of members are conscious of its values, as I said, all the values that we've spoken of, and I hope they do everything to nurture it. It's truly something to be proud of, because I know that many foreigners come from different parts of the country. I mean, they visit Calcutta, that has nothing to do with Tolly. And there are many older clubs, they may be going there, I don't know, but they certainly ring up and just say, we've heard of the Tollygunge Club, we'd like to come and visit it, would you allow us? So we are one of the landmarks of our city. And I hope that we nurture and preserve it and make it grow and develop as the years go on.
That calls for a tourism potential of Tollygunge.
Oh, there is, but, you know, we are a private club, so we have to handle that carefully. Whilst we certainly, you know, we are proud to be a part of, we are proud to be a institution of Calcutta and Bengal and India. And we do you know, support, like we support a lot of armed forces events. We do some things with the other government agencies as well to project Calcutta, to project Bengal. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we have to respect our members' sentiments. So we can't open it up to tourism, but certainly we have worked with the tourist department of Bengal, you know, for golf tournaments and things like that. Because now India is a part of the global network. And if you want investors and you want people to come, especially from the developed countries, they require all this. For them, this is a way of life. And we are one of the institutions can provide all of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Abhijit. That was very interesting.
That was very, very interesting. So you just had a, we heard about Mr. Mukherjee's roller coaster ride throughout his life and the institution of Tolerance Club. So it's quite an educative. I mean, I never knew a lot of stuff that I came to know from you right now. So thanks again, and thanks for watching ANM News. Keep watching ANM Radda, and again come up with more interesting interviews in near future. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ajit.